Hi and welcome to my channel. Now I want to point to a forgotten history of Islam in Europe, forgotten to the effect that it is not part of any European consciousness, and that is the history of the Bektashi order in Albania and generally in Southeast and East Europe. The Bektashi are an order representing a heterodox Islam that consists of both elements from the Shia and from Christianity. They date back to the 13th century when the order's namesake Hajj Bektash moved from Persia to Asia Minor. In Ottoman times, the Bektashi order was closely connected with the Janissaries, the elite corps that was smashed in 1826 for being actually a state within the state that has become too powerful for the Ottoman government. The Bektashi at that time had good relations with the Christian minority, so when the order was smashed, the remaining members of the order fled to the remotest corner of the empire, where they would benefit from their good ties with the Christian minority, and that was Albania. Still in the 19th century, the Bektashi sites in South Albania became hotspots of an awakening Albanian nationalism, and it was these nationalists who later on fought the Turks, that is, the Ottomans. One of their most important proponents was the poet Naim Frashëri. Frashëri in 1898 had written an epic poem on Skanderbeg, Albania's national hero, and Frashëri propagated an Albanian national identity that is both secular and, although being directed against the Turks, not anti-Islamic in character. Later on, in 1925, when the Turkish Republic disbanded all Sufi orders, the order's leadership that has hitherto been remaining in Turkey moved to Albania too. Why was it disbanded? This goes back to the activities of the COP, the Committee for Union and Progress, İttihat ve Terakki Cemiyeti in Turkish, that saw Islam as an obstacle to progress. Now, interestingly, in Turkey, banning the Sufi orders had the opposite effect and basically paved the way for political Islam. Now, back to Albania, it is estimated that in Albania, the Bektashis made up to 200,000 followers, which is a lot for such a small country, and would equal about 20% of the whole population before World War II. Albania was the only European country whose Jewish population was almost entirely saved during the Nazi occupation. After World War II, when Albania came under communist rule, the Bektashi order became persecuted again, and no sooner than in 1990, when the communist rule was over, the Bektashis were allowed again to practice their religion. Neighboring North Macedonia has a similar history of Islam that came mostly with the Ottomans. We find that Sufi orders have a long tradition in that country. Local traditions of law were partially incorporated into the Ottoman law books. Here again, the local Islam that we find is an Islam that was mostly influenced by the heterodox Bektashi order. A few years ago, Michael Totten, an American journalist, visited North Macedonia, and he found alarming indications that the country has become a hotspot for Wahhabi radicalization. Rumors have it that the North Macedonian government tolerated attempts at Islamicizing their own Muslim minority, that they wanted to be at the fringe of society. I don't know whether this is true, but I know that exactly this was the case in Greece. For a very long time, the Greek government tried to marginalize the country's own Muslim minority. It was the only country in Europe where Muslims were allowed to regulate family matters in line with the Sharia, the Islamic law. Greece has a special obligation to its Turkish-speaking Muslim minority according to the 1923 Treaty of Lausanne, but granting the Sharia in regulating aspects of Muslim life is not part of it. And it was not due to Turkish pressure that the Greek government allowed its Muslim minority to regulate, to practice the Sharia in family matters, because under Ataturk, Turkey had abolished the Sharia and became a secular country. This is the result of a survey conducted by the Greek jurist Yanis Ktistakis. This survey was released about 10 years ago, and it personally took me some effort to get a copy of it. And I learned from this book, from this survey, that such politics of granting their own Muslim religion a parallel system of law was unique to Europe after France in 2004 had stopped a similar practice in the case of Mayotte. That is an island located in the Indian Ocean north of Madagascar. Now, the Greek policy of partially recognizing Islamic law has repeatedly been condemned by the European Union because it discriminates against Muslim women. And that is against the Greek constitution that guarantees equal rights for both men and women. Now, 2 years ago, things have changed fundamentally in Greece when under the government of Alexis Tsipras, the country has passed a law that limits the powers of Islamic courts and restored, in the words of then Prime Minister Tsipras, quote, the regime of legal guarantees and personal freedoms that should be enjoyed by all Greek citizens, end of quote. Now please note that except for the Ottoman conquerors who heavily clamped down on the Greek insurgents in the early 19th century, Christian-Muslim relations in Greece have overwhelmingly been peaceful throughout the ages. I only remember here Robert Pashley, an Englishman, author of the 1834 book Travels in Crete, who reported that it was common practice among the local population that Muslims often acted as godparents to the children of their local Christian friends, and that they enjoyed drinking wine as much as the Christians did. Many Muslims were converts from Christianity or their descendants who simply never gave up their age-old habits. Let's go on to Central Europe, where something similar can be said about the native Muslim community in Poland and Lithuania. It is a tiny minority there, comprising of no more than 2,000 to 5,000 people. They are called Lipka Tatars, who officially embrace Sunni Islam, not the heterodox Bektashi version, yet living for over 600 years in Poland. Catholicism had a lasting impact on their customs and manners. For example, Lipka Tatars usually buy Christmas trees for Christmas. Usually they don't do pilgrimage to Mecca. So their own traditions were heavily intertwined with Christian ones, and in this they might offer a role model for Muslims in Europe. Now, in times of Islamist violence, or violence in the name of Islam, whatever, shouldn't we be critical of Islam? Yes, we should. But being critical of Islam is one thing. Being hysterical of it is a completely different thing. So Europe has also a long and peaceful history with Islam, albeit with a mostly heterodox one. Now let's wrap it up here. Let me know what you think of Islam in Central and Southeastern Europe. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If this channel is for you, don't hesitate to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you soon.